Hello, what is up today? Today we are going to be making a tier list of Clash of Clans troops. Now you might be wondering, well, Troll and Mickey, we've seen this numerous times on other people's channels. Now that may be true, but I'm still going to do it because I feel like certain troops are underrepresented. But hold up, this isn't about the main village. Oh, no, we're talking about the builder base. You see, not a lot of tier lists exist for the builder base troops. The main village always gets all the attention, but let's talk about the builder base troops, as well as some tips about how you can improve your builder base. So without further ado, let's go. Alright, starting off with the first troop, the Raged Barbarian. Now the Raged Barbarian is unfortunately one of my most controversial placings on this list, so please don't get mad at me. If you want, get mad at the comments, but don't get mad at me for this. But I feel like the Raged Barbarian is one of the best builder-based troops there is in the game. The reasoning is, although its weakness of the Mega Mine and the Crusher are pretty apparent, if you get rid of those with cannon carts, the cannon carts can destroy those things, and also Mega Mines can be triggered with one singular Barbarian so the rest of the horde doesn't take the damage. So overall, if you have all those Barbarians on Rage, and they plow through the Builder Hall, they plow through, like, pretty much everything, your opponent's pretty much screwed out of a high percentage 2-star, if not even the 3-star. Overall, it's a solid A troop, and I don't really see it belonging anywhere else on this tier list. Next on this list, we have the Sneaky Archer. Now, the Sneaky Archer is very different from a lot of troops. She's invisible, so you can deploy her first to take out a few buildings. However, especially in the early game, she is really useful for destroying certain aspects of the base, combined with the Boxer Giant, which is the troop next on this list. However, the biggest problem with her is the fact that she's extremely unpredictable. In the builder base, it is notoriously known that the pathing of most things, especially the Battle Machine, which will come last in this list, have horrible pathing. And the Sneaky Archer is a pretty big victim to this. But this isn't the thing that makes her completely useless later on. What makes her completely useless later on is the cannon cart. The cannon cart is pretty much better than her in every single way. Has higher range than her, has more damage, has more health, and on top of that, it's more predictable. So the the Sneaky Archer isn't bad, but it just gets outclassed later. I'd have to say it's a C tier. It's not bad, but you can't really use it later on unless you maybe use one to clear out some buildings in the beginning. The Boxer Giant is what we have next on this list. The Boxer Giant is a critical tank. You need him in the early game to tank for Raged Barbarians, Sneaky Archers, hell, even Beta Minions, which are next on this list. He's also an okay tank for cannon carts. However, he is heavily outclassed by the Super Pecha and the Battle Machine. He's not that bad, but what makes him totally worthless in some cases is if your opponent has really good Springtrap placement, there goes all your Giants. They won't find it a way. Their AI is literally probably the most unpredictable out of all of the defense targeting troops. Unlike the regular Giant back at the home base, which you could actually train up a lot more there, you have limited space in the builder base that limits how many Giants you can have per camp. This makes it so spring traps will be able to knock them out easily. A max level spring trap will be able to kill up to 4 Boxer Giants. You heard that right, 4. That's more than your army can even hold, which is ridiculous. It's just, honestly, it makes the Boxer Giant much more lower on the tier list than it probably should be. Overall, I feel like the Boxer Giant needs a little bit of a weight buff. Come on, it's a giant. It's not supposed to be sprung off the map, let alone have all of the Giants just get sprung off the map in just one stupid spring trap. So in the conclusion, I feel that the Boxer Giant, it would be an A tier, but because of its uselessness to spring traps, once again, falling into the same fate as the Sneaky Archer of being outclassed, C tier. The Beta Minion is the next troop that we're going to be talking about here. Now the Beta Minion, very much like the regular Minion in the home base, is mostly used to clean up troops or to maybe possibly start up a funnel. Now the difference is that the Beta Minion has its ability, the long range shot, where basically it can hit certain troops or buildings from farther away. Now, the Beta Minion is the first flying troop you unlock, and that means that things like cannons, multi-mortars, double cannons won't be able to hit these guys. So use them wisely early on, and they will be your best bet of getting the 3-star. It is also decently good at doing damage to buildings, as it only takes a few shots from the Beta Minion to kill most buildings. Aside from that, it's not very powerful in and of itself, but it can be very useful behind other troops, such as the Baby Dragon, the Dropship, or hell, even the bats summoned from the Night Witch, because the Beta Minions, they do a lot of damage, but they don't have a lot of health. Thus, things like firecrackers or air bombs can wipe out them in seconds. So, the Beta Minion is a B tier. It's better than the Sneaky Archer, but it wouldn't be on the level of the Barbarian. Not much else to really say here. Next up, we have the Bomber. The Bomber is very similar to the Wall Breaker, except it removes the only goddamn weakness that the Wall Breaker has. It doesn't commit suicide after death. Its radius explosion is also, or rather explosion radius, is much bigger than the Wall Breaker. You can use this thing to clear out walls from the outside. If they stay alive, you can clear out even inner walls. It's overall probably the staple of all ground attacks. The Bomber is extremely useful, and I'd say that overall, without the Bomber, certain strategies like the Barbarian Rush strategy would just simply not be possible. So therefore, the Bomber is a straight up S tier. Don't question it, because it is going to open up every single goddamn wall there is. The AI is also extremely predictable, so that is a bonus. The next troop we're going to be talking about, unfortunately I am not good with this troop. I have seen it be viable in other places, but it is the Baby Dragon. The Baby Dragon is a pretty good tank in the builder base for the Beta Minions and the Bats. However, this is my opinion, I suck at using them, which will greatly affect the rating. Beta Minions are fine, but the Baby Dragons appear to have a really strange AI. Now, I don't know if this is just me, but I feel like it always changes targets to somewhere unpredictable. And the fact that it can't even do well in mass groups due to the fact that its ability, which might I add, is used to be raged up as long as there aren't any others nearby, makes it completely useless when you use a huge group of them. I feel like the Baby Dragon in the builder base is pretty much god-awful as long as you have him at a low level. Like, you have to have him at pretty much max level for him to even be remotely effective. He's weak against air bombs, multiple firecrackers will destroy him. Don't even think about the Mega Tesla, as that thing will nearly one-shot him. And don't even get me started with the fact that it's so easily distracted by the guard post troops. They're almost never close enough together for him to get use of his splash damage effect, and thus his splash damage does pretty much nothing. In conclusion, I feel like the Baby Dragon is probably an F tier. I'm sorry guys, I just can't use them, or maybe they just suck, but they are an F tier. The next troop we have to talk about is the Cannon Cart. The Cannon Cart is a very solid troop. As I mentioned earlier with the Sneaky Archers, it outclasses the Sneaky Archers in almost every single way. It's very interesting that it has such a weird ability too, because that means that it's very similar to maybe you might realize about the guards from Clash Royale. It will be killed, but then will still have a little bit of health left. This may sound kind of counterintuitive, but when you kill the Cannon Cart, the Last Stand ability provides it with another life until it's truly dead. Now this is extremely helpful, as it makes them a lot better of a damage source because it's more consistent. Now, aside from that, its massive range, massive damage, and the fact that you can take up to 3 of them per camp and spread them out in a nice fashion makes this thing much better than a lot of the other ranged troops, such as the Archer or the Beta Minion. It is also one of the requirements to finishing Auto Hut, which you have to max it up to level 18. Overall, the Cannon Cart is a solid troop and is one of the easiest ways to get a lot of trophies and I'd have to give it an S tier. It's just too good. Alright, this will probably be another really controversial one, but the next troop we're going to be talking about is the Night Witch. Now, the Night Witch, as soon as you unlock her Builder Hall 6, completely annihilating every single goddamn base in the game. As long as the Roaster is tanked by the Battle Machine, those Night Witches are going to crush every single goddamn base. The problem is that it fizzles out at Builder Hall 7 due to the Giant Cannon. The Giant Cannon will pierce through pretty much all of them, and because witches have horrible self-defense, it's not hard to tell why this would be at a pretty low ranking. All the previous ones, like Sneaky Archer, the Giants, the things I listed as outclassed, those are still usable at higher builder halls. They're just not the best option. However, the Night Witch, you really can only use it at Builder Hall 6. You can't use it Builder Hall 5 because you won't have it unlocked. You can't use it Builder Hall 7. You can't use it Builder Hall 8. And at Builder Hall 9, it's completely irrelevant if you have a lava launcher. So in the end, the Night Witch is complete garbage. It would be pretty much at an E tier, if not worse than that. It's not an F because it's amazingness at Builder Hall 6. But other than that, it's a solid E tier. It's not going any higher than that. Next up, we have the Dropship. The Dropship, unlike the Night Witch and the regular Witch from the home base, will summon troops only if it's right next to a building. Now, this is important to know because it won't immediately summon skeletons right off the bat. You have to put him up close. It is a very difficult troop to use, and it is very confusing at Builder Hall 7, and you most likely won't be getting very many 3-stars due to the fact that the skeletons have ridiculously poor health. It can be somewhat useful for tanking for beta minions, and it will be very similar to the Lunian strategy for the home base, but the Dropship is pretty hard to use. However, when used correctly, the amount of skeletons can easily overwhelm most things such as the double cannon, the Mega Tesla, and other point defenses. Its main weakness comes from the fact that so much splash damage already exists in the builder base. We have the Roaster, we have the Crusher, which will crush all the skeletons, we have the Giant Cannon, and we have the Multi-Mortar. Those are all things you need to consider before using the Dropship. But it's not a bad troop, it's just heavily underused due to the fact that the circumstances needed to be using it are very uncommon. In the end, it's not outclassed, it just kinda sucks. I'd give it a D tier. Alright, this is the troop you've all been waiting for, the Super Pecha. The Super Pecha is very similar to the Battle Machine, which will be last on this list. The Super Pecha is very similar to how you would use the regular Pecha in the home base. You can use it to set funnels, and more importantly, it actually doesn't suck too bad against the guard post troops, as if one gets taken out, the guard post troops will most likely get blown up. Still, don't put them near the guard post troops immediately. But as terms of its viability, it cannot be affected by spring traps, but it can be affected by push traps. However, most of the time, the push traps are used to push troops towards the Crusher. But for the Super Pecha, due to its insanely high health, that's actually a good thing. It can take out Crushers pretty much 1v1, no problem. So the Super Pecha is essentially a much more aggressive tank, and it also explodes upon death, making it completely more viable than the Boxer Giant. The Boxer Giant, don't get me wrong, it's an amazing tank, but spring traps really can give it a screw up. The Super Pecha is unaffected by spring traps. Now, the Super Pecha mostly isn't exactly the fastest troop. Really, it takes a long time, and you can only have one per camp. But that doesn't change the fact of how strong it is on its own. So in conclusion, the Super Pecha is a solid A tier. It's not the top tier troops like the Bomber and the Cannon Cart, but it's pretty high up there along with the Barbarian. The Hog Glider is a lot like its home base counterpart, the Hog Rider. However, this troop is extremely complicated and confusing. I'll break it down to you. Basically, it is a flying unit that when it gets to the nearest defense, it'll slam into, causing a stun effect. Now, once this stun effect happens, the Hog Glider will become a Hog Rider. Now, if it gets shot out of the air too early, this stun effect doesn't happen, but it will still drop down like normal. That's a lot right there, just for an explanation of what this thing even does. Now, in terms of viability, at low levels the Hog Glider is alright, but at higher levels, that thing will dominate. The stun effect on the Crusher is invaluable for the Hog Gliders. If you spam Hog Gliders near those, and you take out all the Crushers, that base is pretty much finished. But other than that, the Hog Gliders have a huge weakness. That is the Mega Tesla, and it also suffers from guard post troops because they're defense targeting and won't fight back. So it's best to use this in combination with other troops such as maybe the Cannon Cart, the Raged Barbarian, or possibly even Beta Minions. It's also commonly used with the Super Pecha, however the Super Pecha is good in its own way, so you might want to mix those up as well. I believe that because of this, the Hog Glider, it's not a very easy troop to get the hang of, but if you can get it in the right hands, it will work out for you. I'd say it is a B tier. And last but certainly not least, the Battle Machine. The Battle Machine is the only hero you get in the game. This means that when you're upgrading him, you can't use him under any circumstances, which will knock him down a few points on the tier list. However, the Battle Machine is extremely versatile. What I mean by this is that he's very tanky and does quite a bit of damage with his ability, as well as the fact that he can regenerate with his ability, which can be used over and over again every 15 seconds or so. So how does the Battle Machine get placed on this tier list? Well, it may seem at first that the Battle Machine sucks when you first get him, but once you get him to level 5 at the very least, when you can unlock his ability, he's alright. If you protect him, he'll actually be able to help you out by being able to regenerate and hitting buildings. Now, his major flaw is that guard post troops underneath the Crusher will easily kill him, but in almost every other regard, he can 1v1 Crushers with his ability. He can 1v1 Giant Cannons, Mega Teslas, Double Cannons. Hell, even the Roaster, although that thing has a lot of health. So the Battle Machine is a pretty solid hero. He's not affected by spring traps or push traps either, unlike all of the things mentioned in the previous troops, because he's just a hero and he cannot be affected by those things. So for the final troop, or rather hero I should say, I'm going to give him an A tier, because he's the only hero in the game, although he's not amazing. So yeah, that concludes this list. I hope you enjoyed this tier list video I made, and some tips and tricks to improve your builder base. Number 1, try not to focus too hard on not rushing, because rushing the builder base isn't necessarily a bad thing. Unlike the home base where you get penalized for it, because you start losing loot a lot easier because higher people are attacking you, in the builder base that doesn't matter. Secondly, try to focus things that will work towards Autobot. Maybe you have low-level cannon carts. Try to get those up to level 18. Maybe your Battle Machine's low. Try to get them up to level 30. Things like that, because Auto HUT requires you to have level 18 cannon carts, level 9 Mega Tesla. All your buildings need to be geared up too, so you have to be Tunnel 10 to get it. And your Battle Machine needs to be level 30. And the last but not least, have fun! Although it may be a pretty ragey game mode, the builder base isn't supposed to be a chore. It's supposed to be a fun way of getting some loot every day, and you should be able to upgrade your things no problem. I hope this tier list helped you, and if you disagree with anything I said, leave it in the comments. Or if you just want to hate me, go ahead. Suck my balls, I don't care. Bye, and have a great time.